全道独名仏性意公愛上三陽逆悪公明明語県民年海入本願内地界行者少女今後心教期一年総合用意大と逆三人即小小市場楽原神公開一大教延期安養官一切先祖出身反戦人法家二度小弁流極重悪人有小物害悪罪非摂取中煩悩証言水不見大非無見上昇が本資源空妙仏教連民全幕本部人新宗教書公編集戦弱本願具悪性現代生じ輪廻へケチ義上位少子即入弱上部意楽一心人意の入愚教大自修士と上妻無変極上悪同族自主愚道心有意過信し高層説ナマンナブナマンナブナマンナブナマンナブナマンナブナマンナブ願にしく毒平等性一切同もない心往生非常に合唱。ナモ阿弥陀仏。ナモ阿弥陀仏。ナモ阿弥陀仏。ナンマンダブスナマンダブスナマンダブスナマンダブス。非常に合唱。ナモ阿弥陀仏。ナモ阿弥陀仏。ナモ阿弥陀仏。ナモ阿弥陀仏。ナモ阿弥陀仏。
Good morning, everyone. So I'm just going to kind of jump right into it. Today in Buddhism, I'd like to talk about the six paramita. The six paramita. This is called ropparamita in Japanese, but paramita means perfection or highest state. Okay, and there are six kinds of practices that a bodhisattva must do in order to become a Buddha, and they are as follows, and I will show you a list of them. Hopefully this will come up. Can you see this? Okay, so the first one is dana, or donation, charity. The second one is sila, or observing precepts. This is basically like following rules kind of thing, okay? Kashanti is perseverance, or kind of, getting through it. Gamang, that's another word that we use in Japanese. Virya, or effort. Dhyana, or meditation. And then the last one is prajna, or wisdom, okay? Sometimes this is colloquially kind of pronounced as prajna, but I heard that the proper pronunciation is prajna. I was corrected once, so so that's something that I was told. So these are the six paramita, and each one is supposed to go into the next one. And the first one is dana, and this is the one I kind of want to talk about today. But the last one is wisdom. Okay, so all of these steps of the bodhisattva practices are supposed to lead to the last one, wisdom. Okay, and that came up in the reading just now as well. Wisdom is the highest kind of goal. Okay, so the highest and final completion is the sixth one, wisdom, and the bodhisattva must work for others in order to progress. So helping others is to help the self, and helping the self means to help others. Okay, so as you can see, dana is the first one. Helping others in the form of giving is the first practice that a bodhisattva must do. And so the bodhisattva means a Buddha to be, okay? Buddha to be. I know it's kind of a hard word, but it means a Buddha to be in the future. So it's kind of like Buddha in training, okay? That's what a bodhisattva is, okay? So when a bodhisattva makes vows or promises, that person vows to promise to help other sentient beings, to help other people. And just like when Shakyamuni Buddha was a bodhisattva, he too also practiced dana to work towards liberating all beings. So let me give you an example, okay? Have you guys ever heard of the Jataka tales? Jataka tales, okay? These are legendary stories about the life of Shakyamuni Buddha. And in his previous lives, okay, they were about lives on his practice of how to become a Buddha in his previous lives. Okay, so they're legendary stories of the Shakyamuni Buddha's lives. So have you guys ever looked up at the moon at night? If like look up at the moon, okay? So many people say there are many different designs on the moon, okay? Just like how there are different kinds of formations of clouds, just like, shape of a tiger. This looks like a dinosaur. This looks like a flower, right? Well, in Japan, it is common for people to say that on the moon, there is a rabbit. And on that moon, the rabbit is pounding rice. Okay, it's doing mochi making, or what's called mochitsuki in Japanese. Okay, so here's the reason, or the legendary story of why the rabbit is up there, according to one story. There once lived in the forest a rabbit, a monkey, a wild dog, and an otter, and they lived together in harmony. Then one day, the rabbit said, if we ever come across a person who is poor and hungry, we should give that person something to eat. Okay, we should give that poor person something to eat. Then one day, an elderly monk was walking through the woods, and the monkey gave the monk some nuts. The wild dog gave some meat and a large lizard, and the otter brought some fish from a nearby river. They all offered these things to the monk. Okay? But the rabbit, however, was unable to find something to give to the monk. So she tries and tries, but does not find anything that she is able to give. And that is when the rabbit asked the monk to build a fire. Okay? And as the monk was making the fire, The rabbit then said, I do not have anything to give you, so instead I'll jump into the fire and please eat me. Okay, this is what the rabbit said. Isn't that kind of, oh, that's a big sacrifice there. Okay, so as soon as she said this, the rabbit jumped into the fire, right? But the flames were not hot. The flames weren't hot. And wondering what happened, she asked the monk, and the monk replied, I am not a monk, in fact. I am a deity known as Te Shakten, so just a name, Te Shakten, who tests people on their grasp of the Dharma, who tests animals or beings on their grasp of the Dharma. The Te Shakten wanted to make it known throughout the world what the rabbit did. So what the deity does is that he crumbles a mountain, and from the liquid produced, he uses it as ink to draw on the moon, a picture of the rabbit making food. And this rabbit was actually one of the former lives of the Buddha. And this is the story, the legendary story of how the rabbit got onto the moon, okay? So this Jataka story talks about the importance of the spirit behind dana, or giving. Dana means to not expect anything in return and to sincerely wish for other people's happiness. The rabbit staked her life on the act of giving. But the point here is not about the rabbit sacrificing herself, okay? The point is the importance of wishing for the happiness of others before one's own. And in actuality, other people's happiness is the happiness of one's own. And this is the kind of world that emerges when we listen to the Buddha Dharma. In Buddhism, we have to remember one very key point. It is not okay for just one person to be happy. It is not okay that just one's family is happy and what happens to everybody else doesn't matter. Or it's not okay that just one community is okay and that others are not okay. Or that one region of people are happy and the other regions can suffer, okay? Everybody has to be happy in order for there to be true happiness, according to Buddhism. In Buddhism, there are no select few that make it to the land of paradise or happiness, and the rest will be banished to a world of eternal suffering, okay? In Buddhism, everybody has to make it. Everyone has to be happy. Otherwise, there is no true happiness. And this is what the Buddha teaches us. Amida Buddha teaches us that all sentient beings will eventually attain happiness. It may take a very long time, but it will eventually happen. So please remember this point, because this is the Bodhisattva spirit. Remember, Bodhisattva, Buddha to be. This is the Bodhisattva spirit that we can encourage in our followers, in all of us. So let me give you an example. You know, when they say that charity work brings happiness, well, actually, that's kind of true. When you work in service for others, or if you work to help others, it actually brings you happiness. There is actually some kind of, there's scientific research behind this matter too. So when you try to help others and that good feeling you get because you are contributing to the well-being of others, that is a universal principle that you are abiding by, that you're living according to. And this is why as Buddhists, we want others to be happy and well, just as Amida Buddha wishes for all of us to be happy. We call this wish Amida Buddha's primal vow, okay? It is the wish for all beings to be able to attain true happiness. So the next time you see the moon, tonight maybe, remember this story of how the rabbit got to the moon and the importance of dana, or giving, in the sixth paramita of becoming a Buddha. The Buddha knows that the happiness of others becomes the happiness of oneself, and this is a teaching that we can follow and use as one of our guiding values in this life. So please remember that the Buddha is our teacher, and although it is very hard to match what the Buddha does, we can try to follow after the Buddha's guidance. Okay, so with that, I would like to end. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namman Butsu. Namman Butsu.
Shinran Shonin taught that the essence of Jodo Shinshu is Shinjin. The reason is that by abandoning all other practices and completely entrusting ourselves in Amida Buddha, Our spiritual rebirth is assured by Amida through the inconceivable power of the primal vow. This is known as entering the ranks of the truly assured at the very moment of Shinjin. Thereafter, all utterances of the Nembutsu should be understood only as expressions of gratitude for Amida's assurance of our spiritual rebirth. With reverence, I remain. Thank you. And now I think Sensei is going to give us a Dharma message, and then he will actually read in Japanese from the Gopuncho, the same passage I just read. I didn't write it.
Thank you very much. Okay, please join me in Gasho. But though the light of the sun is veiled by clouds and mists, beneath the clouds and mists, there is brightness, not dark. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Good morning again, everyone. Today we chanted the last part of the Shoshinge. The Shoshinge is a work written by Shinran Shonin, the founder of the Jodo Shinshu School of Buddhism and what we are a part of. And the work is translated as Hymn of True Shinjin and the Nembutsu. And this work basically gives a digest of this teaching. And it also explains who Amida Buddha is, how Amida Buddha came to be a Buddha, and then goes on to talk about the Nembutsu teaching and how it was passed down from Shakyamuni Buddha through the Pure Land masters of India, China, and Japan. So, you know, the Onaijin, it's been some time since we've been to the Hondo, but I'd like to show you a picture here. Can everybody see this? Okay, so the top one here, the top two, beginning from the right, is Nagarjuna, and then it's Vasubandhu on the left. And these two are from India. These two are the Pure Land masters from India. Then the middle three, beginning with the one in the middle, is Tanluan. And then on the bottom left, to the left of it is Shandao. And then to the right of that is, Taocho, and then it's Shandao. Okay, so Taocho is on the left, Shandao is on the right. Okay, so these three are the Pure Land masters from China. And in the bottom with the left is Genshin Kasho. Genshin, and then the one on the right is Honen Shonin. Okay, Honen Shonin. So a lot of times, you know, it says Honen Shonin and Shinran Shonin. Well, is Shonin like a last name? Shonin is not a last name, okay? It's an honorific title that we give. It's like Mr., Mrs., or teacher, sensei, nantoka sensei, right? So Shonin is a title. They were not a father and son relationship. It was a teacher and student relationship, okay? But we place these names on them as a sign of respect and veneration to them, okay? So anyway, continuing on, that is a tradition of 800 years, just counting from Shinran Shonin, 800 years. So it's truly remarkable how this tradition has made its way over throughout the Asian continent, all the way over to the United States. I give a kind of a joke I often give is that there are two things that made it throughout Asia. Do you know what those two things are? The first one is Buddhism. Every country in Asia has its own Buddhism, own school of Buddhism, their own version of Buddhism, and you can kind of tell by the colors of the robes what country they're from. The second one is curry, kare. Every country has their own version of kare and what curry is, and it's very interesting if you can you go to different countries and you eat their different curries. It's very different, right? And so that's the same way with Buddhism. So Buddhism and curry, go figure. Anyway, so the Jodo Shinshu teaching also, when it came to the United States, was one of the first to make it over to Hawaii and to the mainland US. And this is before Zen, this is before Tibetan, before Nichiren, before all the other schools, mostly the US, the Jodo Shinshu school was the first to come over. Jodo Shinshu is one of the most overlooked, I think, Buddhist traditions in this country, despite the fact that our history here in America is one of the largest. It's unfortunate, but it's starting to change. People are starting to take notice a little bit more of what Jodo Shinshu is, but it took a long time for that to happen, right? Sometimes I think it's probably better off that our tradition doesn't grow too much, because there's a lot of things in this teaching that can get misunderstood and taken to, you know, an extreme. But I'll leave that conversation to another time, off camera and after a few beers. But anyway, going back to the Shoshinge, as I mentioned before, I took the liberty of separating this chant into 3 parts, although it should ideally be chanted in one sitting. And Nenyo Shonin is the one who kind of instated our daily rituals. And he said, if we could chant the Shoshinge and then the Nembutsu Wasan. And the Wasan are these poetic hymns that Shinran Shonin also wrote as well. And together, the entire chant takes about at least 30 minutes to chant the entire thing. It's a very, very long chant, but it's very melodic and it's very beautiful to listen to. So if you ever get to Kyoto, Japan, and you're able to go to our headquarters, which is called Honzan, I definitely recommend that you go to a morning service every morning at 6 a.m. without fail, 365 days out of the year. They will do it every morning without fail, the morning service. So part of the Shoshinge that I would like to focus on today is where I just read you in the very beginning of today's Dharma talk, but to expand it a little more, I would like to read the following, quote, "The light of compassion that grasps us, illumines us, and protects us always. The darkness of our ignorance is already broken through. Still, the clouds and mists of greed and desire, anger and hatred, cover as always the sky of true and real Shinjin. But though the light of the sun is veiled by clouds and mists, beneath the clouds and mists there is brightness, not dark. When one realizes Shinjin, seeing and revering and attaining great joy, one immediately leaps crosswise, closing off the 5 evil courses," end quote. So there are some technical terms here, but I would like to explain what he is saying here. Shinran is using imagery to explain to us our relationship with truth. So if you imagine to yourself that there is an overcast day outside, okay? And we don't have much of those in California, but try to imagine a day that is very overcast. The clouds are not sparse. There are many, 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 and they cover the entire sky. They cover it so much so that we cannot see the sun. Those clouds are the representations of our attachments, of our blind passions. In Buddhism, they are referred to as the 3 poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance. Greed, anger, and ignorance. These clouds cover what would be a clear blue sky where we could directly see the sun, but we are not able to see that in our situation now. But through the right guidance and teaching, we are brought to the realization that the sun hasn't disappeared. In fact, the sun's brightness is still shining through those clouds. We just do not realize that what we are seeing beneath the vast amounts of clouds is actually the working of the sun, despite the fact that we cannot directly see the sun and its sunlight. As a matter of fact, it is because of the sun's rays, the working of the sun, that we are able to see clearly the clouds in the sky and just how much the clouds are covering up the sky. In the same way, when we encounter Amida Buddha's teaching, or what we call great compassion, we are then enabled to see our blind passions for what they are. Now, suddenly, we are able to see our true selves as beings who have attachments. Thus, the confusion starts to slow when we can understand the situation at hand. It's kind of like if you could imagine yourself, now this isn't real, but if you could kind of imagine yourself being caught up in a tornado. And when you're engulfed within that tornado, you're moving with it, right? So you're moving so fast within it that you don't realize the breakneck speed. You don't realize the confusion that is going on. But when we step outside of that tornado and see the tornado for what it is, the whirlwind, right? And the craziness that we see when we step outside of it, we think to ourselves, I was a part of that confusion? There's no way, right? But it is when we can take a step outside of that tornado and see it for what it is. It is the same way when we can take a step back and see our lives for what they are. The teaching of Amida Buddha enables us to take a step outside of ourselves, even if it is just for a moment, and look at the situation we are in. We are enabled to see the human condition. It is one in which we are engulfed within blind passions, with never a path to break free from the confusion. But it is Amida Buddha's great compassion that enables us to receive the spiritual break, to receive the spiritual respite, to receive the spiritual timeout, right? That we need from time to time from the daily hecticness of our lives. And I'm specifically referring to relying on something that is beyond our human capacities. I might have mentioned this before, but when we look at ourselves, when we look at our bodies, we can see certain parts of ourselves, right? We can readily see our hands, we can see our feet, maybe our elbow, right? But we can't see our face, right? We can't see ourselves in its entirety. We need something that is not part of us, something that is separate from us, to be able to show us our true selves. What this means in Jodo Shinshu is that no matter how much we try to reflect upon ourselves, no matter how much we try to think about how to attain happiness or how to become, a person at peace, we are unable to do so based on our own powers. And this is because of the blind passions. It is the blind passions that hinder us from being able to see things as they are. We are unable to see our true selves based on our own strengths. We need an outside source that helps us to recognize our true situation. And that outside source is Amida Buddha's great compassion. It is the spiritual guidance that helps us to see the situation that we are in. So when someone asks you what Pure Land Buddhism is, what is Jodo Shinshu? You might have gotten this question. What is Buddhism? And you have to give that elevator example, that elevator explanation, that 1-2 minute quick explanation. These are a couple good examples that I think might be good answers to give. The first is the mirror, okay? The Pure Land teaching is the mirror that shows our true selves. It is a teaching that enables us to truly self-reflect because we are not able to do that on our own, okay? Another example is that the Pure Land is the clear and still pond, okay? Clear and still pond. When we come across a clear and still pond, it is so serene, so pure and still that it reflects our image. It is through the clear pond that we can see our true selves. Here, again, we do not look upon ourselves based on our own powers. It is an outside source that helps us to see our true selves. So the example of the mirror or the example of the clear and still pond. Amida Buddha's great compassion enables us to take a step outside of ourselves, even if it is just for a moment, and look at ourselves as we are. And when we are able to do this, the confusion of our existence slows down, at least just a little bit. I'm not saying it's going to stop altogether, because until the day we die, we always see ups and downs in our lives, but at least it will slow down. We will be able to see the confusion for what it is and understand that what is causing much of the confusion are my actions. So I must think about how my actions impact myself and others. And perhaps maybe I can remedy the situation. I can help to support others who are in need, or maybe I can do something to help curb the suffering that is around me. But I cannot do that unless I first see the problem at hand, which is the self that is fettered in blind passions. So returning back to the talk about the clouds and how they cover up the blue sky, they may cover the blue sky and the sun, but the power of the sun is much too strong to black out. Its power, its working, shines through and illuminates the entire world beneath the clouds. We can now see the clouds for what they are. So in Buddhism, the key is not to get rid of those clouds, okay? A lot of people think that, by doing like, meditation and all these different practices, or by chanting or by saying Namo Amida Butsu, that we are somehow getting rid of those clouds, okay? That is not what the purpose of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism is, okay? The purpose of Jodo Shinshu is through the Buddha's wisdom, we can see the clouds for what they are, meaning we can see our true selves for who we are. And what that change in worldview brings about how we change, how we view the world as well. In Japanese, there is a very popular phrase, and it is the following: 胃の中の蛙、大海を知らず。胃の中の蛙、大海を知らず. And this means the frog in the well does not know of the large ocean. The frog in the well does not know of the large ocean. And this is to show that the frog in the well only knows about its immediate surrounding. So it's a phrase referring to the fact that we can only know so much. And people who are kind of full of themselves or think they know everything there is to know don't know how much they don't know, right? All they know is what they know, right? It's this tunnel vision that they have, right? So to the frog, the well is its world, right? That's all it knows. But unfortunately, the frog doesn't know the large and vast ocean that is outside of the well. It does not know the world beyond the world it knows, right? So from a Jodo Shinshu perspective, we are that frog in the well. And the well is our world of blind passions that keeps us pitted in a deep and dark place. But the light that we can see at the top of the well, right? When we look at the top of the well like that, right? It is the world of light. It is the world of Amida Buddha's boundless compassion that embraces any and all wells. When we even catch a glimpse of that light, we are able to see the well we are in. Now, everything, the well that we are in, we can see very clearly. And we can then aspire to be born in the world of light that is outside of the well. So I just introduced to you one small portion of the Shoshingen, what its significance is. I hope this was helpful and it kind of shows why it is important to know about this hymn that Shinran Shonin composed. The Shoshingen has many more teachings, but they are too much to cover in one message here today. But if you can remember from today's talk about the clouds of blind passions, but that we are always embraced by the sun of Amida Buddha's great compassion, and that the sun always shines through the dense and gloomy clouds. Okay, so with that, I would like to end today's talk. Thank you very much. Please join me in Gasho. But though the light of the sun is veiled by clouds and mists, beneath the clouds and mists, there is brightness, not dark. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Okay, thank you very much. Namo Amida Butsu. 上人一流のご関係の趣は信心のもって本とせられそのゆえはもろもろの造業を投げ捨てて一心に皆に起業すれば不可思議の眼力通して仏の方より往生は自情せしめたもそのくらいを一年発起入症状始終とも釈しその上の称名念仏如来我が往生を定めたまいしご恩法人の念仏と心べきなりあなかしこあなかしこ Please join me in that show. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.